We're about to go through the most incredible shift that we've ever seen. Most people are not ready for it. The scarcity of intelligence is not there anymore. It's gone. Okay. It's literally going to be free. So if intelligence is free, then what's important? The evolution of self is probably the most dynamic, most powerful, most potent thing that anyone can do. So the bigger that vision is that of what we're trying to create, what we want to do with the world, like it makes everything else become very small. And then guess what? If more inspiration, greater impact, you start becoming a magician of your life.
Guys, we have a very special guest in this episode. His name is Jonathan Foltz. I had the honor to meet him at World of Dubai. He's an amazing leader in AI, in technology. He's at the forefront of everything that is happening. And in this episode, we talked about a lot of mindset gems. Jonathan gave us his perspective on AI, his entire story, and where he sees everything headed. And I made some notes just so I don't miss anything. So Jonathan is an owner in a public company and leading a tech department for AI, Web3, and exponential tech innovations. He built over, guys, this is crazy, 30 companies in technology, education, and e-commerce. He's a futurist, philosopher, exponential entrepreneur, and digital frontiersman, as you will see. He's worked with politicians from the Secretary of Defense of Mexico and Fortune 500 companies, and he's leading an amazing community of visionaries, change makers in AI, Web3, and exponential technologies called The Collective. And it's also my honor to be a part of that. So without further ado, let's start this episode because this is gonna be amazing. Jonathan, thank you for being on the podcast, on the show. It's an honor to have you here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I always love being able to talk about where it is that we're headed and, got to meet you over there here in Dubai where I'm at right now. So
yes, sir. And for the people that don't know, Jonathan had an amazing talk at World of Dubai. We talked about AI agents, how to become superhuman, leveraging AI, and we're definitely going to cover all of that throughout the podcast. But Jonathan, I really want to start at the beginning, man. Like, what was the journey for you? How did you end up being this entrepreneur? Like, what was the journey so far? Take us from the start.
So I mean, it kind of started with, my father. I was actually, let's go back to the very beginning, right? So I was born in Toronto, Canada, but I was actually supposed to be born in South Korea. And imagine I'm like, hey, where are you born? South Korea. But it was like the reason that was because my dad he was kind of like special operations for Texaco Chevron. He was an accountant, he was a numbers guy. But he worked basically with a team that basically would go into countries and cities when there's like a huge issue or they need to fire an entire department, figure out why they're missing $50 million worth of oil, like special ops, like crazy stuff, cool stories on that realm. But I ended up being born in Toronto. But then from there, we went to New York. Then from there, went to Miami. From there, went to Argentina. From there, went to Colombia. From there, back to Miami. And parents got divorced. And then my dad was traveling all over the world. And then I got to dip in and out from like London, Paris. I basically got to go everywhere. So there's benefits and drawbacks to that, right? So the benefits was that I became a very amicable social creature because I had to keep on finding new friends, right? So like, imagine that I'm in one place, I have my friends, and all of a sudden, oh, I got to move to another country. Oh, I got to move again. So it's like, it made me have to figure out how to socialize to a degree, right? Market yourself at a very young age. So that kind of got, probably got a little bit of like, my social skills, sales skills, whatever you want to call them, in the very beginning stages. And then like my parents ended up getting divorced. My mom was like working at like literally like vendor shows and stuff like that. And, I would see my mom hustle and she was like a social butterfly. My dad was like the analytical. My mom was like a social butterfly. Everyone loved her, so it still does to this day. And that kind of got me like, into the mode of like, okay, I could probably do some of this entrepreneurial stuff. And if we go way back, like, I tried a bunch of different little ventures making money. Luckily my dad like made us work hard for anything, like pulling weeds just to, make our money for the week. And he would give us an accountant book and like sign off on like he's the bank and stuff like that. So we started to get appreciation for money very early. Then ends up, I think it was, I don't know if it was like 15, 16 years old, the Marshall Mathers LP was coming out, one of the Eminem CDs. And the thing is, this is when I just started really like going deep into the internet. And I found in the back end, I don't know, the deep web, if you want to call it back then, I found the Marshall Mathers LP 3 weeks before it was coming out. And I'm like, what the hell? This is before there was any rules or regulations or laws around this, right? And I'm a little kid, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. I don't know how old I was around then. And I find it, I'm like, whoa, like how did I just find this? And it was like real, like it sounded real at least, and there was no AI back then. So I was like, man, I'm gonna make a CD and come and sell it at school, right? So I literally go and I like, it took like 30, 45 minutes per CD. I fill up my whole entire book bag. I'm like, all right, today's the day. Let me go do this. And this is after a bunch of failed entrepreneurial attempts, right? Try to sell them baseball and basketball cards. I would open them all. That didn't work out so well. Some VHS tapes, that didn't work out so well. I think I was selling CDs at that time because I was one of the very early ones that had like CD burners. And then, I was able to $5 here, like for friends and stuff, not a real business. And, like this one day, and then I went, I cut out the pictures. I made my own album cover. I didn't know what order they were in. They're probably all out of order, the songs. And I go to school and I sell out like this, an entire book bag full. And I was like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Like I'd never seen so much money so quickly. And that kind of like made me realize it's like, you know, trading time for money is a fallacy because, I now just made a bunch of money in a single day. And it was so impactful. The rest of the school did the same thing. And it was such a huge phenomenon in the school that even the principal went on to the speaker is like, we see a lot of people selling CD because it was a frenzy. So like because Eminem at that time was probably it was probably the hottest album, and this kid Jonathan like got an early pass to get this like thing, like people were like, whoa, how did this happen? Then everyone had it because they went and copied it, they went home, and like it was after that that kind of got me a feel of like, okay, this is cool. Like I can make money, very quickly doing all kinds of stuff. And the digital realm was a place I loved. So from there, obviously I'm not going to go and start selling CDs that are like pillaged from, artists and stuff like that. But it just gave me a way to be like, okay, there's ways I can make money. So I was always obsessed with that. I started on eBay pretty early. Ended up right after high school, started my own like reptile shop. Then I realized that like, there's these little kids that, there was a story of one little kid that I think it was a reptile store that I had. Yeah, believe it or not, right after high school, I had a store selling exotic reptiles. Long story how I got into that, but it was like baby little turtles. My buddy had a shop. I went to go see it. He was killing it, selling hermit crabs and baby turtles. And I was like, what the hell? I was going in the mall. And I was like, I couldn't believe how much money he was making. So I was like, okay, I'm investing in this. I'm getting into this. So I ended up doing it. Ended up doing that business. It was actually very profitable. It was did very well. And then one day, like we started getting more reptiles. Like we started doing snakes, we started doing bearded dragons, all these different things. And one day during Christmas time, this is another. It was kind of like my mind was shifting away from the hourly wage thing, right? Like I was shifting that thought of like, hey, I have to work per hour for a certain amount of money, right? And I remember like right before Christmas, I needed bearded dragons. They're like this little mini dragon looking lizard. The kids love it and everything like that. And I didn't have any for Christmas and I needed to buy some. Usually they're like 15, $20. You sell them for 60, $70, and then you sell a setup, ends up being two, three, $400. And I needed them because I didn't have any, right? So I can't not have Christmas presents for these kids that are obsessed with bearded dragons. Like people loved it. So I go on Craigslist and I find this little kid, and he basically came over with his mom. He had like, I think it was 19 of them. And he literally was like, this was crazy. So I was like, okay, great, perfect. I'm gonna give you $20 a piece. There we go. We're good to go. He's like, $20 a piece. He's like, no, 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 no. He's like, these are $100 each. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, 100. I'm like, that's more than what I sell them for. I was like, I obviously can't pay that. And he's like, oh, you can't? Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna go sell it to someone else. He starts walking away. And I'm like looking at his mom. I'm like, she's like, his business. I'm like, what? A 12-year-old kid. And I'm like, hold up. I'm like, hold. I'm like, come back. Damn. I was like, damn it. This kid is like literally hustling me right now. And I'm like, I needed to have him, and you couldn't get him anywhere else. That I literally ended up handing this little 12-year-old kid. And I'm like, man, how long have you been doing this? He's like, oh yeah, this is like my, fifth, sixth clutch of the year. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this little kid is literally banking right now. He even knows the value of what he has, right? It's like, it definitely didn't seem like his mom knew anything what was happening. She was just like, hey, it's on him. I don't know anything. So man, I should probably get into doing the breeding. So, anyways, long story short, we had that reptile company. We ended up disrupting the actual reptile industry because me and another guy named Ben Siegel were the first ones to basically start doing auctions online for reptiles before they ended up banning it. It was so disruptive, it shifted an entire multi-billion-dollar industry. And that kind of showed me too, like, whoa, if I do things that other people haven't done, this is going to be really cool. That company ended up getting acquired in 2016. Went more into like the agency side. I started doing e-commerce. Then from e-commerce, we exited. We did about like $45 million or $40 million in revenue. Then we exited in 2021 to a public company. We became owners in a public company. Still a major stockholder of this public company. Went on, acquired a couple companies, scaled the things from there. And then, once AI started coming along, I already knew it was coming, like I used to pay attention to Ray Kurzweil. And Ray Kurzweil was the guy that basically was shifting my thoughts and my interpretations of where the future is going. And I was like, okay, I got to pay attention to this old crazy dude that basically thinks he's going to live forever. And I'm like, I must pay attention. And that really got me into exponentials and to see where we're headed. And then once, Chat GPT, I already knew all this was happening. I knew it was coming. I'd already plans and projections of how we're going to create like an AI assistant for the world. But it just came way faster than I could ever expect. And then once Chat GPT came out, I was like, you know what? Time to sell my other company, step down from the public company and go all in on this space because things are coming way faster than I expected. And I have to pay attention. I have to get into this and I have to create something that is going to help me and support humanity at a larger scale. Boom, hence the collective came out. And, in between, I've had over 30 companies, right? So, like, obviously there's a lot of things that happen in between, those are just some like major milestones of my past without going into every single one of the companies that we've built and such. I just tend to do a lot with a little bit of time, so I consider myself a time hacker. And I have a really good talk on it, which is the Chronicles of a Time Hacker. So imagine once AI came along in the way and shape that it is now, where you can really, really get it going. And now what we call it, and I call it, it's called becoming AI enhanced. So like now it's like we're getting to the point of creating AI agents, AI assistants, automations to enhance an individual or a company to such a high degree that they're just like, holy smokes, they can become 50% more efficient, 100%, 200, 500, depending on industries, like literally imagine you becoming 2 to 300. Like me, myself, I probably phase in from like 200 to 500% more efficient than I was 2 years ago. And I've had over 30 something companies. So imagine the type of efficiency or the amount of things that I could get done now versus before. It's a new paradigm. So like, and most people don't grasp that it's here right now.
Got it. That's awesome. It's an amazing story, and I feel like it's so dynamic. And obviously, right now at this point, you are a serial entrepreneur. Like you've been through so much, and I still feel like you have so much to deliver to the world, which I think it's awesome. But like, what would you say was the biggest mindset shift that you had to make to be able to get started with business now in venturing into AI, spotting the trends, and like all of that?
Yeah, I mean, more than anything, it is actually mindset. And more than mindset, I would say it's like evolution of self. So when I really started to realize that, like, the old ancient mystery schools and all these great philosophers and, these people that, believed in consciousness, I really started to see a different world of how we can elevate ourselves. So it's like when I started much more working on myself, like not just to become learned, by reading a bunch of books and audios. And I've read thousands of books, I don't know how many audios that I've listened to, how many magazines from front to back I read. I was obsessed at one point in time. And, it just got to a point where it's like, I could learn all these things, but I could also be certain things. And it really took me having to learn more about myself, and really getting to the point of what I like to call is like the inner evolution of self. So it's like, I found out that all these things, through the Dr. D. Martini is one of my mentors. Rob James from Self Discovery is one of my mentors. So I've literally learned from some of the top minds that are living on the planet right now. Like I learned from Landmark Education One, Dr. Dina Martini's The Martini Institute, self-discovery, like a bunch of other ones that, William Lamb, one of my good buddies, like in his NLP stuff, there's a lot of people that have had a tremendous impact on getting my skill sets ready for the future. And then if you embed it with, my futurism, like it really is like I believe it's something that has been able to allow me to do a lot more with a lot less time, and preparing me because I believe that we're on the planet right now. We're about to go through the most incredible shift that we've ever seen. Most people are not ready for it, and hence why I created the collective. It's not about me; it's about the collective. So on a global scale, the collective, and us as a community, we're a private community, about like 1,500 people generally, and then there's 150 paid members. So it's like 10% basically that would be ones that have like really come in to like help each other to a high degree. And I was like, the reason I created that community was because I'm like, okay, things are going to move so fast right now to such a degree. What's important? Create technology, do a course, but things are going to be changing dynamically, exponentially, to a degree that most people just can't catch up. And I'm seeing it in real time. I thought more people would be catching up. It's the opposite. People are not catching up whatsoever. That's another reason, like here in Dubai, I'm just getting shocked at like how people don't know what is happening. USA is way ahead of everybody else, and even there's a giant disparity. So it's like, imagine the disparity that's out here. So I was just like, okay, how can we, help people? And, I always say is like AI is probably the most impactful thing someone could do, minus one thing, which is inner evolution. So it's like the evolution itself is probably the most dynamic, most powerful, most potent thing that anyone could do. And I bring those teachings into what we do. So it's not just about the futurism. It's not about, this revolutionary technology that's about to shift humanity, but it's also, I believe it's a consciousness revolution, and people will have to evolve to a higher self in order to be able to walk among this new planet that is coming out. And it's either going to happen deliberately, which we're helping people do it deliberately, or it's going to happen because things are shifting so fast. You might lose your job that you absolutely hated. Now you're reflecting, like, what am I doing with my life? So consciously they're like, okay, should I just go do something I'm more purpose filled, I'm more filled up with joy, or do I keep doing this job just because I was getting a paycheck? If you're just doing that job to get a paycheck, there's a good chance that you're going to get replaced, and it's just not going to work out. So how fast can we get people to evolve? And that's one thing that I think is important. So if you bring in, there's a really great book actually that I love, that gives a good depiction by Dr. David Hawkins, and it's called Power versus Force. And there's something called the Maps of Consciousness, and that book entails basically the evolution of self. And here's the thing: it's not Dr. David Hawkins that came up with this concept. It's all the great masters of time have spoken about this concept, and he just puts it into context in numbers, so it's a little bit easier to understand. It doesn't matter whether those numbers are right or wrong, but it's from 0 to 1,000. And as you evolve consciously, you evolve as a human being, you also have more impact on the planet. So it's like, why would I not want to evolve myself to the highest degree? So these endeavors that we do, what we're creating is to evolve myself, which then can have an impact on the planet.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like if people don't put in the work right now, especially with everything that is going on with AI, they're gonna be easily replaced like in the near future. So like before we get into the ins and outs with AI and tools and stuff like that, what would you say, like, what do I have to do if I'm a business owner, if I'm an entrepreneur, or even let's say someone is watching right now, if they're stuck in a 9 to 5 job, like what would they have to do to like not be replaced by AI? Like, is it the mindset, or like what is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. First and foremost, like I really believe people need to do what they really are inspired and they love. If they're doing something that is not something inspirational they love, hopefully it's facilitating something that's inspiring or they love. If not, it's going to fall apart anyways. It's just AI might just do it faster, right? So it's like first and foremost, like starting with that notion, I think is very important, which is also going to be more inspiration than mindset. I would call it inspiration, not just motivation, because like motivation can be money. Inspiration is like, power from within. That makes a big deal. Secondly is like, start learning AI. Like if you don't know AI and you don't become AI enhanced, it's a dangerous track that people are going to be on. Because here's the thing: what I've come to find is that most people think they're using AI, And now the baseline of like almost not using AI is just using ChatGPT, using Claude to write some emails, check your contracts, blah, blah, blah. And it's like the rabbit hole goes way deeper. And there's way more things that you could do. And, AI agents are coming. We're obsessed right now. One of the things that we're studying and we're like teaching a lot of in our community right now is about AI agents. So imagine autonomous AI agents. Like, that's going to get crazy where it's like no longer are these just like, bots and like, hey, you're getting answers from an AI. It's like, what if you have PhD level AIs going out and taking action and creating things that you say for it to do? Like that's a whole different level. Like, and people don't grasp the magnitude of what that's going to do and how many people are going to just be way behind. And there'll be a very small portion of people that know how to yield these to a high degree that'll be creating 10, 20, 30, 50x what a person that is just using ChatGPT is using. And then they won't realize until they're like, okay, why is everything so hard? And it's like, yeah, you just haven't enhanced yourself and you haven't learned how to put these into action. And things are just moving so quickly, it's hard to even keep up. So it's like we're just in a new paradigm and it's slowly unfolding itself and it's happening in real time. And like paying attention to that, I think is extremely important. And then changing the mindset also, like almost like this new paradigm, it's like you almost have to think differently. And actually the talk that I did, it went from very like, hey, here's some tools, hey, here's this, to more like I'm like, if you read my Instagram, it says like I came back from the future with a map. Okay, so it's like and they call me the digital frontiersman. So it's like I'm usually way ahead. I know where we're headed. My track record shows itself over and over again that I'm really good at seeing where we're going. Um, like I've been on many occasions way ahead of time. And with that being said, it's like if we know where we're headed and this is coming so quickly, and it's coming quicker than we know, shouldn't we pay attention to where it is that we're headed and how fast it's going to come? And that's what my talk now is more a forewarning. Hey, this is where we're headed. Here's the proof. Here's why. Here's how it's going to happen. Here's how fast it's going to be. And they're like, oh shoot. And then it tends now to shift people a lot more than, hey, here's the tools that you could use and such, because that is probably gone in like 2-3 months. It doesn't even matter anymore. So it's like preparing people for the exponential curve instead of the linear curve that most people are going on. And they're predicting the future and their endeavors and their plans in the incorrect manner. So it's like you now want to put yourself in a position to really grasp that stuff to a high degree. And that's another reason why, we're doing what we're doing now.
Got it. And I wanted to ask you, like, why do you think it's so difficult for people to catch up with AI? Like, is it ego? Like, is it ignorance? Is it this thing where, like, I don't need AI, like, I'm better? Like, is it the fact that they think AI is evil? Like, what is it? Because I'm talking to a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and I'm seeing that, they have that thing where, like, AI is evil. Like, I don't need AI in my business. Like, what do you think is the reason for that?
I mean, there's a variety of reasons. Like a lot of people are kind of fearful of it because they don't really grasp it. Some people don't think that it's that far away, so they're not taking it serious. There's other people that is like it could be overwhelming, so they're kind of like an ostrich and they'll put their head in the ground and such. And a lot of people just can't see how to apply it themselves, and they think it's very technological. Like we've had a lot of people that, I was like, even my brother, I was like banging down his door. He has a very successful business. And only until recently, he's like, okay, I'm ready to get AI enhanced. But like for a year, like telling him, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like you have 100 sales reps. Like you should have a co-pilot. Every single one should have their own co-pilot. You should have your own AI system within the organization that is going to show everything that's happening, know everything about the company, have all the links, information that everyone could talk to 24/7. And like only until recently, he's like, dude, he's like, okay, I get it now, and like, bam, now he's getting involved in this whole process. But like before, just like they just don't see how fast and how impactful it is. And here's the thing, it's not even about what it's capable of right now. That's what I'm trying to tell people. And this is why I've been like so deep in it, is that it's what it's about to do. And if you already start creating the architecture, it's like me, I'm like, pretend there's a road being built. Okay, this is the best investors in the world think like this. There's a road being built from one city to another. And I'm finding out that in between that big road that's being built, there's a stop and there's literally a McDonald's that's being built and then a city. If I go and I invest and I start building my place, which is like a desert right now, let's just say, and super cheap right now. but I know what's going to happen. And I know there's a McDonald's, there's a city being built inside there. I know that I'm building properly because I know what's about to happen. The cost of that land is going to go up 5, 10x. And I'm going to be able to do it because I'm predicting what's about to happen in the next 2, 3 years. This is very similar to like creating infrastructure and becoming AI enhanced now versus doing it later. Because if you do it right now, you'll be ready from when automated autonomous agents are coming out, when these PhD level AIs are literally running an entire organization. You yourself being able to like be extremely more efficient. So it's like, other than an inner evolution, what else is more important? Like people are worrying about this strategy and this thing, and they're building this and they're building this CRM, and it's like, yeah, you guys are literally just building a bunch of stuff that potentially in the next 6 months to the 18 months, 2 years is obsolete. So you're wasting precious time when you could be doing something significantly more impactful, which is basically in the AI space. And that's why it is the talk of the town. It is not overhyped. It is actually underhyped. You've even hear some of the biggest CEOs in the world talk about it. Like everyone's like, oh, everyone's talking about it. Oh, I'm already doing it. It's like, no, you're not doing it. Because if you were doing it correctly, you'd be moving at 20, 50x the speed. The people that are really implementing it correctly to the highest degree are smoking the competition like there's no tomorrow.
Got it. And yeah, I mean, like that's probably one of the reasons why you started the collective in the first place, right? Because like I still got to get into the full content that you guys got on there, but I think it's so powerful what you're doing because essentially like what people need nowadays is like access to people like you to see that, you know, to see what's possible, to like remove like all of those limitations. So definitely like what you guys are doing with the collective is just completely awesome, like amazing. And what is the mission? Like tell us, what is the mission for the collective, for this community that you're building right now?
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing. People think that we're building a community and we have memberships and that's how we make money. We actually lose money with the member because we do events, we're bringing in badass speakers, we do these AI workshops, whatever. The bigger vision actually is called Collective Technologies. So it's an umbrella corporation that owns 3 companies underneath it. So the collective is one of them, okay, which is the education, community events and such like that. And that allows the congregation, all these badass business owners, 7, 8, 9 figure business owners, people just realizing, hey, I want to get involved. I want to quit my job, my corporate job, whatever. So from like base level all the way to very advanced, extreme, amazing entrepreneurs, politicians, technologists. Then we have an agency, and I don't talk about this. I rarely talk about it because we're very private with it. We have a viral, it's called the Viral Gorilla, and it's an AI-based agency that we do viral videos, super high-level branding. Okay, so that's actually, I do that only for friends, but it's really to power what we're doing at the collective. And then the third arm is called Exponential Labs. So we're starting a laboratory that basically is like almost like a Renaissance lab of like these technologists, like a couple of my good friends that we're basically beginning in this endeavor. And we're going to just build out crazy technology, AI software, AI apps, exponential apps, websites, businesses. And our goal is to have like a couple hundred companies by the end of like 2026. And we're going to be able to do it because we're going to have the ability to be able to launch out very quickly. And then we now have, see the ecosystem, we now have the community factor that is allowing us the ability to scale out because we have master marketers, we have affiliates, we have technologists, we have all kinds of people that will now believe in our products and they'll help us get to market quickly. So if we have a really good product, they can all help us get it there. So the bigger we make the community, the more impactful we're helping them and change their lives, the more they're going to want to support us on the mission to make this come into life, especially if we have a good product. If it's not a good product, it doesn't matter what we do. So the facility of it all is, and then the notion, so why are we doing all this, right? So because things are moving so quickly, it reminds me of the story of Atlantis. And for those of you that know the story of Atlantis, and if you know the story of Atlantis and such like that, everyone has a different depiction of it. But a prominent story, like that some of the great philosophers would bring up was that it was a very intellectualized civilization, very far advanced. And one day they just disappeared. So what happened? The notion stands also that it was a forewarning or maybe a fairy tale about a civilization that thinks it's too smart for its own good. So if you look back at history and you see the civilizations that become over intellectualized, this happened with the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, happened with the Persians. When they get to over intellectualize, they lose sight of the heart and the intuition, and they usually get taken over by many times by barbarians. Why? How's that possible? They're so rich, they're so smart, and barbarians are the ones that take them out. Why? Right? It's like they lost that feeling, they lost the heart, and they got too much in the head. So we all think that intellectual stimulation, intellectual prowess is the best thing. It's like now it doesn't even matter because we have intellect that is in an AI. That's PhD level. So the scarcity of intelligence is not there anymore. It's gone. It's literally going to be free. Okay? It's literally going to be free. So if intelligence is free, then what's important? A complete different dynamic. So knowing these things and what's happening and how we have very unconscious leaders, the true mission of the collective is to help and support the conscious leaders of the future with technology and revolutionary technologies that are going to support humanity in this new evolution. So we are, and one of our memberships is actually called architects. So we are literally architecting the future by building the conscious leaders with some of the most technological and revolutionary technologies on the planet. And then we're going to go ahead and make proper impact so that humanity goes in the proper direction instead of blowing ourselves up or, allowing these very dangerous unconscious leaders to do things that could set us back, or basically the population could be completely gone if we set off a series of nuclear bombs and stuff like that, where AI gets out of control. That's a possibility. So that's the reason we do everything that we're doing. And that's what the whole mission with the collective is. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, I love the story about Atlantis as well. And I think you're right, like right on the money. One of my best mentors, like he told me right now, like they used to say knowledge is power, right? But right now, everyone with AI, everyone has access to the knowledge, which means knowledge is not that powerful anymore. It's what you do with it and like your creativity. And I think it's totally like you're right about that. It's like the paradigm shift with this conscious leader, like, and even more than that, creative leaders that can leverage AI and technology, but like put their own experience into it, like their own struggles, their own kind of like unique perspectives on things. And with the collective, for example, like I know you guys are already doing workshops and masterminds. Like, would you say as like we're getting more and more isolated by technology, like with everyone is like in their little bubble, would you say like the community side of things and actually being in real life with like people at events, would you say that is a key factor in like evolving both as an entrepreneur, like as a business owner, but also like as a person?
Oh yeah. I mean, community just hyper accelerates your growth, and it shows you all what else is possible. Because if you get around a group of people that are already succeeding and helping each other out, it literally just makes you know it's possible. Like one of the first communities that I joined in e-commerce was a guy named Justin Senior, I think it was. And he had a community and a boot camp. And like when I first got into e-commerce, it was hard. Like I was like, man, I thought I had it under control. I had an agency, had success with my prior businesses. When I got into e-com, I was like, man, this ain't working out the way that I thought it was. And I was in a community, right? So I had paid to be in his program to teach me how to get onto Shopify. Then it included a year membership or forever membership. I don't know what it was. And if it wasn't for me being in the community, I would have probably quit because I saw a bunch of people succeeding. And if I didn't see them succeeding, I wouldn't know that it's possible. And once I saw that it was possible and I had people helping and supporting me, I was like, whoa, there's like a big difference. So it's like if you are in a place where the world is shifting, why not be together with a community of people? Like a big reason that I do it is actually even for myself. Like I'm able to learn in real time because I could just ask, people in our community, like, hey, how do you build this? Hey, have you tried this? Hey, because there's millions of apps. Like literally, there's probably, if you include GPTs and like AI based apps and like these AI agents, like we're probably reaching probably 7,500 million of them. Okay, what in the world would you know what's real, what's good, what's not if you have a big group of people that are sharing information and knowledge, now you have a hive mind and you're much more advanced and more superior. And here's the thing also, social networks and like the whole celebritism and stuff like that, that's dying off. We're seeing that, these government entities, these social networks, they're not who they say that they are, manipulating information. You saw what was happening with Twitter, basically like cutting off like one side of the story. Now they're all pissed off that Elon has opened it up to everyone and is now right wing. It's like, no, it's actually now people can speak freely. They don't stop other people from speaking. The left can speak, the right can speak, whatever. But more than anything, people want community. So I think that we're going into more of a tribal way of life again, okay, because this is what we did in the beginning stages, the human evolution. So we're going back into a tribal one. So it's like, how do you find your tribe? And the thing is, it's like I'm part of a bunch of communities myself. So it's like you don't have to be part of one. Like if someone's part of the collective, for example, or let's say that you have an Andre community, whatever it is, like you don't have to be just part of one. You could actually be part of the ones you resonate with, right? And then you could dip in and out of the ones that you resonate with and what you're learning. Like maybe I have one that's based on technology, another one that's based on consciousness, one that's based on finances, and I dip in and out, and I get the greatest feedback and knowledge and people that I could trust and that I resonate with, right? And then that changes the game from me just being on a Facebook huge channel or what it is. Like they're breaking off into smaller segments, and I think that's one of the reasons Hermosi went and invested, after he was doing so much and put all his effort into school now, which is like a bunch of communities. It's like a social network, but with a bunch of communities on it. Like that has changed the game, and it just helps you see what's possible. You can leverage the crowd, and then people are just going to help you. And then also collaborations, partnerships, just like the opportunities expand vastly from just being inside, a community and such, which is highly beneficial.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what I've seen with my entire journey with content as well. Like I started in ecom. I also joined the community. Like that was the biggest leverage for me, like having access to people that are already doing things and are successful. And I definitely think like being in a community, being in a hub with people that are already doing the stuff that you want to do and are a bit ahead of you. I think that is the biggest leverage. Like having, conversations like this with people that are actually successful and are already doing the things you want to do. That is the number one thing. Like I think people are definitely like tired of another course of, just another PDF. Like they want the real conversations and the real sort of like connection, which obviously like this is what we want as human beings. I feel like no matter like how much AI is going to pop off, human connection is never going to go away. So yeah, I think that's that's a given in this context. But like you mentioned Twitter, and I wanna ask you like, what's your take on this entire like craziness that is going on right now? Like I've seen there's a lot of manipulation. I feel like with social media, with everything that is happening, like what is your take on the chaos?
It's almost, there's a consciousness awakening, and here's what's happening. It's like it's just a universal law of polarities, right? So there's polarities. We ended up, at least in the United States, we ended up going very left, right? The left took over. Joe Biden went into office. Basically, they were shutting all the major news outlets were shutting down the right side, and it's like all they did is really piss off more people and awakened people that were left at one point in time. Like there's so many, even Elon Musk was on the left. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of these different CEOs and everything like that, are now leaning right. They were left Democrats. They were proud Democrats. And it went so far out, pronouns, you know what I mean? Like freaking, wokeism, like people's feelings before reality, right? Like a man could get pregnant. It's like, look, like guys, there's chromosomes and stuff like that. Like this is not how the world actually works, because you're getting emotionally unstable. And if you look at all of these people, they are literally like, a lot of them probably have mental health issues, and that's not their fault. Like I don't even blame them. It's like society and their upbringing was rough. If you look at it, and if we were to do scientific research, you would literally see a lot of these people had issues, and that over emotion and us being for not as bad word to say, but these over emotional creatures were now having their feelings come out, and then you had the other side not willing to speak up. And this is what actually Dr. David Hawkins talked about, is that the majority of the population doesn't even have courage. So at the level 200, right? So you have from 0 to 1,000, 700 is enlightenment, 200 is courage. The majority of the population, per David Hawkins, before he died in 2012, most of the population, 78% at the time, was in an animalistic state that didn't even have courage. So we didn't have the courage to speak up and be like, no, this is not like chromosome Y, Z, this is how it works. Like, no, we're not going to, force everyone to be vaccinated now that we're finding out everything's like getting messed up now. No, we're not going to, allow people that are danger into the military. Like little things like that. There was common sense things that now is like coming to light, but because people didn't have the courage to be like, no, this is not good. Like, let's use some common sense here. And now it's shifting back over there. Luckily we had someone like Elon Musk that came in to be like, hey, let's shift the dynamics, and is he doing some things that could not be right? And, whatever, taking advantage of it on Twitter for the political campaigns of the right. Yes, of course, that's definitely possible. But at least now there's open dialogue. And everything is like he's open sourcing everything so you can actually see it. And they're not literally shutting people down because they don't like what they say. And that's what was happening. And that was happening all over the United States. And then that then propagated to all the different countries around the world. Like people were being shut down for crazy stuff. Look what's happening in UK. It's happening right now where people were putting supposed acts of violence on Instagram or Facebook, and literally thousands of people were getting arrested that led to nothing. Like there was not even proof that it led to something violent. So they're shutting people down. And that's basically what used to happen back in the days. So it's like we're trying to be a more free society. And I'm like a huge proponent of like free speech. Like, let me say what I'm going to say. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. You want to be transgender, this, that. Like, I have no problem with that. Just don't force other people into that train of thought or having to do it. Go do it on your own. You learn from your own lessons and stuff like that. And all I know is like, if we look at it a little bit deeper, if they were able to evolve consciously, I think that a lot of those dynamics or those feelings or how they see the world would shift also. So nothing wrong with it. It's just that's what's happening with civilization. That's what's happening with the world, where we do need this conscious awakening and these conscious leaders to come into place that will help propagate and help the world see in a more balanced way, where we could be supportive instead of combative in this animalistic state and such.
Yeah, it's definitely been crazy. And if you're someone from, let's say, like a small town and you don't have access to people around you, if you're building a business, if you don't like have the connections in your business, even though we have YouTube right now, we have school, right? I feel like a lot of people are still stuck in that mindset of like, oh, I don't have people in my proximity. Like I'm not, I want to do this thing, I want to build this business, but I don't have people near me. So I'm not going to go look for mentors online or like really do the research. And like, I'm a big advocate of living with intention. So like being intentional, and like my background is in branding, right? And when you're building like a brand, the number one thing is like, you got to figure out the why. Like, why are you doing the things that you're doing in the first place? And I feel like a lot of people don't even like know the reason why they're doing all of it. Like whether that's business, whether that's going out and like looking for connections, right? So I guess like my question right now is like, what would be your advice for someone, let's say they're even like in high school or a college dropout or entrepreneur, trying to find their way in this entire chaos, trying to find their why? What would you say, like, what is the number one advice right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you're aware of that. A lot of people aren't. I'm a huge proponent of what's called the telos. And the telos is actually, it derives from one person that spoke about it a lot was actually Aristotle. And the telos is based on something called teleology, which is the end in mind. And it's basically like your purpose. So like, what is your actual purpose? Especially when you've been, taught, indoctrinated, what I mean, molded and sculpted by society, by your parents and everything like that. And you think that you have to be a doctor when in reality you hate doing it. You think you have to be a certain way. You think that you're a woman that has to be beautiful like all these Instagram ones. What's really important, right? So a lot of that has to come from like the inner knowing. But the thing is, if you're not exposed to the possibility, you don't know why you're here. You don't even know your values. Okay. So one of the people I love paying attention to, and he actually has something very cool, is Dr. Demartini. And Dr. DeMartini talks about the value. He has something called the values determination process. I suggest anyone go and take it on his website, drdemartini.com. And it basically has 13 questions where you can get clear on your actual values. And the more you get clear on your actual values, you start to realize what your purpose is. Once you look at your top two, three, four hierarchy of values, you will literally see the power of why you're here. And if you start acting in the world with intention on your values and your purpose, you literally start to not kind of care what industry you're in or if it's making money or not. Like you're coming from inspiration, and that's actually a place where the magic's happening. You have more energy. Your genius comes out. Your creativity is there. And if you're not adhering to it, you're adhering to what your parents said, what the government's telling you, all the stuff, you're living in your lowest values. And that's when you're tired. You can't think straight. No genius is coming out. You literally procrastinate like crazy. And then a lot of people then end up going into, like depression, anxiety, all these things. And it's not, oh, I just have depression. I'm just not in a good place. Yeah, it's because you have two things are happening. You're not living by your hierarchy of values and the top ones. And then secondly, you are not seeing the grand picture and the perfection of everything. You're only seeing one negative side. And that's what's interesting is like the most inspired people don't sleep that much. You ever heard like how much Elon Musk sleeps and how much these people, Dr. DeMartini, how much he sleeps and such? They don't sleep much. And yet they accomplish a lot. Then a depressed person, what do? They sleep all day long. So there's a direct correlation with inspiration, okay, and being depressed, literally knowing why you're here. So if you know on a higher level through your telos, you literally will be in a better position. So I think a magnificent journey is to find out what your highest values are and what your purpose is here on the planet. And if you have a higher purpose, the reason why Elon Musk is like he's a crazy time hacker and he's just creating insane things in the world is because his vision is so big for humanity to make us interstellar slash interplanetary civilization by putting us on Mars, and who knows after that. His vision's so big. It's like all this little stuff. Who cares? Like, oh, he's getting sued by a few people. He's getting sued doing this. Like, he doesn't care because his vision's so big. So the bigger that vision is, that of what we're trying to create, what we want to do with the world, like it makes everything else become very small. And then guess what? More inspiration, greater impact. You start becoming a magician of your life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And look, like whenever someone like you, for example, like has a vision, we're all human, like we're all dealing with setbacks. We all have like bad days from time to time. What would be your thesis for like someone right now that is really struggling with doubts, with a lot of setbacks, a lot of judgments from their family, let's say if they're trying to build a business, what would be the thesis for dealing with like those bad days?
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Most people that are having setbacks, issues, challenges, and they can't snap out of it, the only reason that they have a notion that it's going bad is because they don't know at the very exact time and moment it's exactly what is necessary to take them to that next level. And there's also benefits that are happening simultaneously. This is like quantum universal law here. So it's like at the very same time, and we don't have enough time to go into the notions, but this is something taught by some of the greatest teachers. Science is backing this up now. Quantum mechanics is like showing us that two things are moving simultaneously, the yin and the yang, right? There's positive and negative. You can go back into ancient times until now, and the only reason someone is, seeing things as negative is because they're not seeing the counter side. So when these things are happening, it's like it's almost a great benefit for people to see the counter. Okay. For example, I ended up like one of my companies ended up going down, and I was like, Facebook ads went down and my company went down. I lost insane amounts of money. Da, da, da. And it was like, wait a second, like I really wasn't even resonating with this company. The universe was trying to remind me that like you're not on the right path. So a deliberate action came into place to take it down since I didn't want to listen, and then basically help me go on the true path that I was supposed to be on. So it's like, holy smokes, yeah, actually, that was exactly what I needed. And the thing is, it's harder to do it hindsight, or it's easier to see it hindsight. Looking forward, it's kind of hard. Or when it's happening, it's kind of hard. But when you look back and you're like, oh man, that makes perfect sense. It's like trusting also the universe is putting us in the exact place that we need to be. And I actually call those universal nudges, where something very rare, weird, someone does something that doesn't make sense, something happens that doesn't make sense. That's probably a gift that is putting you in the right direction. So understanding that from me, the insane bad things that have happened to me, you could go back in my history and like I'll break records with the bad things that happened, but those were exactly what I needed to be. It needed to happen to put me on the trajectory that I am on right now to help civilization, to evolve myself to the highest degree, to help countless lives on the planet. I needed all that, and once you see that, it's like it becomes perfection and you can't get bothered by it. And then that right there shifts someone to basically be in a lighter state to create more in the world, and then go after what they're really here for.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I 100% agree. That is the thing. Like my biggest thesis in life is that like because I've been through like a lot of like crazy stuff, I have this thing where like you like try to use the pain and like the struggle and the lessons with the content and now like help others as well, right? So whatever like I've been through as a and this is like everything that we're doing basically. Like whatever you're going through in life and like learn in your journey, use that in, for example, in your community, in whatever you're building program, in like to leave that legacy and so to for you to be able to like help others, right? And also like a big thing has got to be throughout all of this journey. I feel like gratitude, like you have to be grateful for the things that you have, because with all of this chaos we tend to forget the blessings that are already here. We compare ourselves to others, and it can get like super crazy. So speaking of gratitude, like I'm super grateful for this conversation that we're having right now, for the talk that you did at World Dev. And I'm definitely like super hyped for doing like a mastermind, like in person, attending a mastermind, a workshop in person. I feel like we could talk for hours about all of this. But yeah, like anything else that you want to add right now?
Yeah, no, no. I mean, just the biggest thing is, we are in a new timeline and civilization's, time frame that we're here. And it is coming fast. The shift is not just a technological revolution, it's also a consciousness revolution. And it's time to pay attention, and like almost like become like a new person because, in this new wave, there's also great opportunities. It's a renaissance. You could create amazing things. So it's like concentrating on that. And like it's the ability, you can now do things in such a short period of time. You can completely shift your entire life in a very short period of time. And it just takes being deliberate, paying attention, and taking action and initiative, right? Like not just learning stuff, like go and implement. Implementation's like a big thing that we've been on like as of late. Like it'll be a huge shift, and like obviously, I'm glad to be here and, you guys follow the collective or me on Instagram, Rain in the Making, and basically, do amazing things for the world. And I would love to connect more, Andre, with what you're doing. And I think that you're doing a great job of putting a podcast out there and like help and support people because right now people need it more than ever, especially more real-time information because things are happening so quickly and they're only going to not accelerate, hyper accelerate. And that's where it's needed big time.
Yes, sir. Awesome. So where can people find you right now if they want to find you online?
Yeah, I mean, so Rain in the Making with periods in between on Instagram. We also like thecollective.xyz instead of .com. That's usually a Web3 based company and such like that. We tend to be revolutionary in the Web3 space and AI. And just reach out, like always like a great place that you can talk to me on there. You could send us a message or something like that and just see what we're doing. We have a free school community with a 7-day AI challenge. I love people for that. Like we were actually going to charge a lot of money for it. We ended up in like, you know what, let's give it away for free. So it's like school.com/collective/about. Just free 7-day challenge. If you haven't taken it, Andre, like everyone should take it. Like even if someone thinks they're very advanced, it's the 7-day challenge. It's like it gives you a foundation. I also help you figure out where it is that we're going, how we're going, how fast it's coming, and then like very basic things that everyone should know. And that's very beneficial. So yeah.
Awesome. So you guys joined the school. It's amazing. Like I've actually been in the challenge. I was there like last night, dipping into the videos, into the content. I still got to get into it more, but I'll talk to you more there. But Jonathan, thank you so much for the time. Amazing podcast.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Everyone have a great one.